right, so communication DNA, we talked, I think you kind of started out, right? 87% of issues that we have in business are around miscommunications or bad, poor communication or some sort of blockage. So that can lead to all kinds of craziness. It can lead to all kinds of craziness at work. It can lead to all kinds of craziness at home too, right? I mean, you've seen what's happened when you've had bad communication or miscommunications. And a lot of that can be, and we talked about this too, right? Just the difference between the word how do you think versus how do you feel about something can really be important in allowing someone to continue. I think in Hugh's example, had this community builder ask him, Hugh, what do you think about what I just said? He may have been able to more quickly give her an answer that wasn't, I'm still processing. He might have been able to give her an answer. But when she said, how do you feel? As soon as he was asked to access his feelings about something, I don't know how I feel about it. I haven't thought about how I feel about it yet. So doing communication DNA, it's a powerful tool to help you understand quickly how do people prefer to communicate? How do you prefer to communicate, so that you can make some of those adjustments and adapt to the person's style. Changing little things like a couple of words. What do you think about this versus how do you feel about this can make a huge difference in how powerful that communication is with someone. Takes about 2 to 5 minutes to complete. 3 of you completed it at lunchtime today, right? Not real hard to do. Okay? Goes pretty fast. And one of the powerful things that you can use it for is to map employee styles to your customer style. So if you have a customer that one person's having a really difficult time getting through to, do you have them matched up with somebody who can communicate well with them? Or can you help somebody flex a style to get better connected with that client, with that customer? So if you don't know how people like to be communicated with, you're likely to pick your dominant style and communicate that way with everyone. If you know something about what somebody else's communication preference is and can flex, you're likely to pull them in a little bit more. So the 4 main categories, and they roughly, if you look at the circle, right, you'll often see that the top left of the circle, those profiles in the top left grid of the circle, the strategist, initiator, influencer, are typically, you can overlay sort of a box on it where there'll be the goal setter type, results driven, fast paced. On the top left of the grid then for you, right, where your engagers would be more your lifestyle type communications. Stability will be down on the relationship side, but the slower paced side of your wheel, if wheels have a side. And your information folks will be on the fast paced, or on the results oriented, but the slower paced side. Yes. So what goal setters are going to say when they're talking to you are sort of summary statements and big picture ideas. They'll say it with a lot of confidence because they'll be fast-paced about it, and they'll look pretty questioning because they're going to want to understand what are my options here. Your lifestyle people are going to say things about how fun it is and be really overly expressive with things. So I think Michelle, being an engager, is actually not a lifestyle communicator. She actually has an adaptive style, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what she's probably learned, because we've learned a little bit about her boss, right, who seems like she would be very high in the goal-setting space on communication. She just wants the bullets and the big picture. From a lifestyle perspective, it's easier for us. I have a lifestyle, although I'm an initiator, my communication preference is lifestyle, meaning I think out loud a lot, and I think that's a lot of that creativity and spontaneity in my profile, is I use words to paint pictures and to think through things, and so that helps me really process information. So I say more words than most other initiators do, and then most other initiators want to hear from me. My boyfriend is a strategist, and he's always looking at me like, there are too many words. What are you trying to say? Just say it. stop talking, just say what you're saying. So understanding that if it's something really important, I can get to it quickly for him. And they'll be expressive. So you'll see a lot of gestures. They'll paint word pictures. Stability folks are going to be, they'll sound supportive. They'll be talking about how how to keep things together, how it important. They'll be a little bit more cautious. They'll be a little bit more relationship oriented. So they'll be warm and approachable. And the information folks are going to be really detailed. They're going to want to know all of the details of what you're saying, not necessarily the picture of what you're painting from a lifestyle perspective, which may be a little bit more high level and a big picture. The information folks are going to want to know the research behind it and all of the details that they're going to need to be able to fully understand what you're saying and make a decision. So your reflective thinkers are going to be information folks, sometimes your strategists. So the communications tool itself, when you take the profile, you can get your primary style with the consumer report. So you can have your teams take this. They typically will get a consumer report, which will show them their main style, and their secondary style if they have one. And then we're not going to go into a lot of detail on these other reports. I think Leon and I are going to maybe do a follow-up session with Communication DNA, which is part of why I'm moving quickly. But there are several other reports that you can use with Communication DNA to adapt how you approach meetings, how you approach sales conversations. It is really powerful to help understand how you might approach somebody, depending on your goal. So, for example, in the premium report, which is the one that you all have, you get the graph of sort of how strong your scores are in each of the communication areas. So Chris's style is goal setting with secondary of information, and he gets a secondary of information because he's got a score above 50, which gives him a secondary profile score. So in talking to Chris, I would want to make sure that I was fast. I gave him some options. I was to the point, and that I had some detail that I could send him later that he could read and get a good clue on what it is that we're talking about, or have the information and facts available to be able to give him right then, right? So give him a quick summary. Here's what you need to know. Here are the choices that you need to make. Here are a couple options for you. If you have a question about one of those options, here's all of the facts that you need about that option, right? Questions about that? Does that make sense? So again, you're going to see your primary style with a score over 55 and a secondary style if you have a score over 50. If your primary style is so primary that the other scores don't make it over 50, then you don't get a secondary style, which just means it doesn't mean that you can't adjust to those other styles. It just means that you have such a strong preference for that one style. All right. And an adaptive style is a style where you've got 4 scores that at least 3 of them are 55 or higher in that person. So they really adapt easily and effortlessly between styles. They can absorb information from a variety of different ways. And then they can also adjust and flex. Caitlin, like you were talking about, being able to just kind of match somebody and listen and flex. If your style is an adapter style, that's really easy for you. That's a learned thing for you as an engager because your score is a lifestyle, right? But what you've learned as an engager and as a community builder and in the role that you have as a networker is to flex that style for other styles so that you can connect with people, because connection and group is really important to you too in your natural behavior. And so what you've learned is to flex that style. But it requires a little bit more flexing for you than maybe it would for Paul or for Michelle. We've got 2 communication adapters in the room today. where they can get information and give information in a variety of ways depending on their situation.